March 26, 1997, Rancho Santa Fe, California. The air inside the mansion is wrong. It's not just the heat. It's a heavy, cloying scent. A mixture of industrial strength cleaner and something sweet. Something decaying. The deputies from the San Diego Sheriff's Department aren't moving fast. They are moving with a terrified caution. They expect a bloodbath. They expect a massacre. But as they push through the double doors of the master suite, they find order. 39 people, lying on bunk beds, lying on mattresses. All of them gone. They aren't just dead. They are staged. Every single person is wearing a black tunic, black pants, and on their feet, brand new, crisp, black and white Nike Decades. Their laces are tied perfectly. A square of royal purple cloth is draped over every torso and face. It's silent. It's clinical. It looks less like a crime scene and more like a departure lounge. The deputy reaches out. His hand trembles. He lifts the corner of a purple shroud. He doesn't see a face twisted in pain. He doesn't see the horror of a victim. He sees a smile. 39 intelligent, capable, successful adults, including a former music professor and a billionaire's daughter, just packed their bags, put on their shoes, and exited. But where did they think they were going, and why? Nearly 30 years later, is their official website still active? If you email them today, someone or something will answer you back. To understand how 39 people convinced themselves that a comet was a cosmic taxi, we have to go back to the moment the world first broke for Marshall. The year is 1972, Houston, Texas. Marshall is a man who has lost everything. He was a respected music professor, a family man, a success. But he was living a double life. He was struggling with his identity, his sexuality, and a society that didn't have a place for him. He suffered a nervous breakdown. He ended up in a psychiatric hospital, searching for a reason not to jump off a bridge. That's where he met Bonnie. Bonnie wasn't a patient. She was a nurse. But she wasn't just a nurse. She was a woman who lived in the stars. She studied astrology. She believed in reincarnation. She believed that the human body was just a vehicle, a biological suit that you wear until you're ready to upgrade. When they spoke, it wasn't a conversation. It was a recognition. Marshall and Bonnie believed they had known each other for thousands of years. They believed they were the two mentioned in the book of Revelation. They weren't from Houston. They weren't even from Earth. They called themselves Ty and Dew. They spent the next few months wandering the American wilderness in a beat-up car, sleeping in tents and eating out of cans. They were refining a philosophy that would change the world, or at least end it for 39 people. They believed Earth was a garden, a nursery for souls, and every few thousand years, the gardeners, a highly advanced alien race, come back to harvest the ripe souls. The next level, the level above human. But in 1975, they decided the harvest was ready to begin. September 14th, 1975, Waldport, Oregon. A small flyer appeared on a telephone pole. It promised the truth about UFOs. 20 people walked into a small meeting room. They were teachers, nurses, parents, people who felt like something was missing from modern life. Marshall and Bonnie stood at the front. They didn't look like cult leaders. They looked like grandparents. "You don't belong here," Marshall told them. His voice was calm, mesmerizing. "Your families aren't your real families. Your jobs aren't your real purpose. You are part of the away team, and the ship is coming to take you home. He told them they had to leave. Now. And then, the unthinkable happened. Those 20 people just disappeared. They didn't pack. They didn't say goodbye. They walked out of that meeting, got into their cars, and vanished into the fog of the Pacific Northwest. The media went into a panic. The UFO cult became a national headline. Families were begging for information. Police were searching the forests. But the members weren't lost. They were in the classroom. They were learning how to stop being human, because to board the craft, you have to leave your humanity behind. But what the world didn't know was that the classroom was about to become a prison of the mind. For the next 20 years, the group lived in total secrecy. They moved from town to town, renting mansions with money they made through manual labor and eventually high-end tech consulting. They didn't call themselves a cult. They called themselves a laboratory. Every aspect of life was controlled. If you wanted to eat an apple, you had to ask permission. If you wanted to go for a walk, you had to have a check partner. Individuality was the enemy. They all wore the same baggy, genderless clothes. They all had the same short, buzzed haircuts. They were trying to erase the self. Marshall and Bonnie taught them that the body was just a container. You had to treat it like a car. You wash it, you fuel it, but you don't love it. They monitored each other's thoughts. They had slippage reports where they would confess if they had an earthly desire. But then, in 1985, the plan hit a lethal obstacle. Bonnie, the do of the group, the person Marshall relied on for everything, died of liver cancer. For the members, this was a catastrophe. Their theology said they would board the ship in their physical bodies. But Bonnie's body was gone. Marshall was devastated. He was alone, and a lonely leader is a dangerous leader. He didn't give up. He changed the rules. He told the group that Bonnie hadn't died. She had simply dropped her vehicle because she was needed on the craft early. She was waiting for them in orbit. And now, they didn't need to take their bodies with them. They just needed to discard them. This was the moment the away team became a suicide pact. As the 90s arrived, Marshall became obsessed with the human urge. He believed that as long as the members felt sexual desire, they were tethered to the earth. They were impure. One day, Marshall made an announcement. He was going to lead by example. He and several other male members traveled to a clinic in Mexico. There, they underwent surgical castration. They didn't do it because they were forced. They did it happily. They called it becoming a neutral. They believed they were literally cutting the strings of their humanity. When they returned to the mansion, the other members saw them as heroes. They were the purest of the group. But the world outside was changing. The internet was born. And the group, brilliant, logical, and tech-savvy, saw a way to fund their final mission. They started a web design company called Higher Source. These people, who believed they were aliens waiting for a spaceship, were the same people building websites for corporate America in the 90s. They were the experts. They were professional. They were hiding in plain sight. But they were just waiting for a signal, a sign from the level above human that it was time to leave the garden. In late 1996, they looked up and they saw it. Comet Hale-Bopp, a massive glowing snowball hurtling through the dark. It was the brightest comet in centuries. To the rest of the world, it was a beautiful celestial event. To Marshall and his 38 students, it was the CAB. Marshall told the group that a spacecraft was following in the comet's tail, a ship the size of a city. Bonnie was on that ship. She was waving them home. The energy in the Rancho Santa Fe mansion shifted from study to departure. They weren't afraid. There was no weeping. There was no doubt. They began to film their final exit videos. If you watch these tapes today, it will haunt your dreams. These aren't people under duress. They are joyful. One member, a young man with a bright smile, looks into the camera and says, "We're going home. I've waited for this my whole life." They talk about their vehicles as if they are old cars they are finally trading in. They went to a local Marie Callender's for their final meal, all 39 of them. They all ordered the same thing: turkey pot pie, cheesecake, iced tea. They tipped the waitress generously. They were polite. They were calm. And then they went back to the mansion to die. The exit was performed with the precision of a military operation. They didn't all do it at once. They did it in shifts. Shift 1, 15 people. They mixed phenobarbital into bowls of applesauce and pudding. They washed it down with vodka to speed up the process. They lay down on their beds. They helped each other. They made sure the purple cloths were straight. Shift 2, the next 15. They cleaned up after their friends. They made the mansion look presentable for the gardeners. Then they took the mixture. Shift 3, the final 9, including Marshall. They packed their bags, literally. When the police found them, every member had a small overnight bag next to them. Inside, a change of clothes, a spiral notebook, their passports, and in their pockets, a $5 bill and 3 quarters. Why? Because Marshall told them they might need interplanetary change for the tolls on the way to the next level. They weren't committing suicide. In their minds, they were going on a trip. But what happened to the person who was left to find them? Rio was a member of the group who had left just months before the end. On March 25th, he received a package. Inside were 2 videotapes and a map. The letter from Marshall said, "By the time you see this, we will have exited. Go to the house. Tell the world what happened." Rio drove to the mansion. The sun was shining. The neighborhood was quiet. He used his key. He walked in. The smell hit him first. Then, the silence. He walked from room to room. He saw his friends. He saw his teachers. He saw the purple shrouds. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He sat down on the floor and he felt jealous. He felt like he had missed the bus. He felt like he was the only one left in the garden. When the police finally arrived, they found a scene that defied every logic of crime. No blood, no struggle, no notes of regret. Just 39 pairs of Nikes, 39 purple cloths, and a comet fading in the distance. But the story didn't end in 1997. Most cults die with their leader, but Heaven's Gate is eternal. If you go to heavensgate.com right now, you will be transported back to 1996. The site hasn't changed. The spinning next level logo. The warnings about the recycling of the earth. It is the only website on the modern internet that is still maintained by the original members of a mass suicide group. 2 members were ordered by Marshall to stay behind. Their job? To keep the site online, to answer emails, to make sure the information is always available for the next away team. If you email them today, they will respond. They are polite. They are articulate. They will tell you that their friends didn't die. They will tell you that they are currently on a craft traveling through the stars, waiting for the Earth to be spaded under. They have spent 27 years in a digital tomb, guarding the gates of a dead religion. The mansion was demolished. The Nikes were burned. But the website stays, a digital ghost haunting the World Wide Web. Why did they do it? We want to believe they were crazy. We want to believe they were weak-minded. But look at the tapes. Look at the Higher Source website. These were some of the most intelligent, capable people of their generation. And that is the most terrifying part. They weren't running from death. They were running toward what they thought was home. They chose to believe a lie because the truth of being human was too painful to bear. They wanted a way out of the chaos. They wanted a leader who had all the answers. They traded their lives for a pair of Nikes and a seat on a ship that was never there. On the sleeve of every member was a patch. It said, "Heaven's Gate Away Team." They believed they were just visiting. They believed they were finally going home. And as you sit here in front of your screen, you have to wonder, if a ship appeared in the sky tomorrow and promised you a way out of this broken, lonely world, would you put on the shoes? Or would you be the one left behind to watch the comet fade?